This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today is the first season of Netflix's Outer Banks, and this is essentially a young adult show. And that's not a bad thing, actually, because it's pretty well done, it's entertaining, it's well cast, though it has problems, which I will get into. What's most interesting about it for me is that it plays like an episode of Scooby-Doo. I kid you not. They even drive in a van, and there are 5 of them, like with Scooby-Doo, and they solve a mystery. They're searching for a treasure that supposedly vanished, and it's entertaining, and as I said, it's well done. But the thing is, it's not particularly deep. It's not very layered, which is a pity, because as I mentioned, the story revolves around these 5 young people. Oh, and I want to mention before I continue is that while we may be talking about young people, we aren't talking about 15-year-olds. We're not talking about 16-year-olds playing these characters. We're talking about people in their mid-20s playing 16-year-olds. This does not make any sense to me, and it confuses me because you could just as easily have these characters be slightly older people, but they cannot pass for 16. No way. It doesn't work, and it's mildly irritating. Though fortunately it's well acted enough that it's not that much of a problem. Though it's such an easy thing to write around, I don't know why the writers did what they did. This series was created by Shannon Berg, Josh Pate, and Jonah Pate, who did 2005's Surface, which was on NBC. And these guys have a fixation with water. Josh or Jonah Pate wrote most of the episodes. And as I said, they have a fixation with water. Surface revolved around water. Outer Banks also revolves around water. And the story talks about these 2 groups. Essentially, you have the rich people on the island and the poor people on the island and their interactions with each other. That's something that the story doesn't pay any real attention to. It's there as a framing device, but it doesn't quite get into it enough. It's a real interesting subject, but the story just kind of glosses over it. It doesn't really deal with it in any real way. Another thing that the story doesn't deal with is why these people, these 5 friends, even like each other. They seem not at all alike, and in fact, they seem sometimes the direct opposite of each other. And there seems to be no real reason that they're together except for television show, and they have to be together. So that's not too great. And another thing is that there's a predictability to it that's kind of irksome. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. There are 2 characters, JJ and Pope, and they're both well acted. But the thing is, the way it's acted, it's vaguely homoerotic, the relationship between Pope and JJ. It would have been interesting to see the series tell more of that story, because it's just alluded to way too much for it to not have been something that at least the producers of this show noticed. And as I said, part of the problem could be is that they didn't intend it to be there. But as I mentioned, these are not 16-year-olds. These are adults. So when you have that interplay between 2 characters, by the way, I didn't mention, but JJ and Pope are both male. And when you have that interaction between 2 adult characters, and they are adults, I don't care that they're playing 16-year-olds, they're clearly adults. When you have that type of interaction between 2 men, it comes off very gay. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, only that that's the way it looks. I think it would have been better if the producers had just went with that and have Pope and JJ become a couple, because the way they were flirting with each other for 2 or 3 episodes made it seem that was the case anyway. What I also like about this series is that it's only 10 episodes. I keep going on about this because Netflix in the past has made these first seasons, I should say, of these series way too long. At 10 episodes, Outer Banks never overstays its welcome. It's relatively tight. It makes sense. The storyline is not terribly logical. A lot of people do stupid things, but that's okay. At 10 episodes, it works. I'm not even saying that the storyline in many instances makes a lot of sense, because it frankly doesn't. But the chemistry of the cast is really strong. The scenery is attractive. The main actors are attractive. And if you had time to spend, I would check it out. It's not bad. It's not something that I would seek out. But if you have a few hours to spend, I would definitely venture into the Outer Banks. This is Brian with screenfiles.com and review. Peace.